All right, friends, greetings and welcome to the What's Right show, brought to you by Sam & Ash Injury Law, 702-820-1234, because you deserve what's right. Now, for those of you watching, you can see that I'm not in my usual studio. I am back in the Czech Republic in Prague, so I'm doing this show very remotely and trying to keep up on everything happening back home. Forgive me yesterday that I was off air. Travel days are tough when crossing the Atlantic, 9-hour time difference, day lost in the airplane, all of that good stuff. So I am back. I've got my travel set up here. I've got my sleeves rolled up, and I'm ready to get into everything that's happened over the last couple of days. I want to say something very important. And by the way, email me what you think about this. I'm very curious to hear about you because I have a most improved conservative award to hand out. Most improved conservative. By the way, email sam@whatsrightshow.com, sam@whatsrightshow.com, and on Twitter, now known as X, @whatsrightsam. And actually, I know we don't like to give out any participation trophies here, right? I have two people I want to give the most improved conservative, Republican, whatever you want to call it. Anyway, our side of the aisle, most improved award to two Americans. Now, okay, let me tell you, the first American that I want to give this award to is Marco Rubio. I've said this before. Marco Rubio has proven to be an exceptional Secretary of State. And one of the most surprising things is that he has no problem defending his record in the Senate to his former colleagues, Democratic senators. You know, the Senate is a different animal. A lot of people don't realize this. You get into the Senate, very collegial, and even senators who are on the opposite side of the aisle tend to get along and do things together and overall avoid the type of acrimony that we are accustomed to, those of us who are fighting on the outside of things in D.C., they avoid that. But not Marco Rubio. He, I think, was a fairly collegial guy and has now evolved into a street fighter. This guy's a bare-knuckle boxer. I'm going to play in a little bit the exchange between him and the clown, a.k.a. Chris Van Hollen, Mr. Margarita with Tren de Aragua gang member in El Salvador, that Chris Van Hollen. And I tell you, he just put Senator Van Hollen in his place and reduced him to a blubbering mess. It was brilliant. Now, the second award, and I don't give Megyn Kelly enough credit. Megyn Kelly went from a slightly triggered Trump-hating bimbo to someone that I deeply respect. And I've leveled a fair amount of criticism at Megyn Kelly, certainly going back to the 2016 election. But Megyn Kelly deserves major support from all of us. And if you do not follow her show, put it in your rotation. Megyn Kelly is one of the best in the business. And she is absolutely fearless. And if you missed it, I got the best clip. And again, I'll get to this here in a moment. Her going after Jake Tapper, absolutely massive. Now, something connected between it, I want to draw the parallel here between what Marco Rubio is doing currently and what Megyn Kelly is doing. And of course, I'm figuring in this in my own little way because these are issues that I've been fighting for a long time. On one hand, right, Marco Rubio is single-handedly from the State Department fighting to establish America First doctrine, not just internationally, but also domestically as it relates to coddling various immigrants, visa holders, et cetera, that are actually governed, and a lot of people don't realize this, are governed by the Secretary of State. Because these indulgences to remain in our country, to come as guests of the country, are codified under the U.S. Code to the oversight over this and I guess the right of veto or qualification comes from the Secretary of State. And Marco Rubio has enormously expanded his role in line with federal law and the Constitution to make it clear that people who hate this country and are guests of this country are not welcome here. And, this is near and dear to my heart because, I'm the son of immigrants. My parents came here actually on a temporary status. They were escapees from communism. They actually went briefly to Western Europe or in Holland, the Netherlands for a period of time, were disgusted by the leftist rot that was there. And every time I talk about them, I just, I talk about it with them. I just did this recently. Was asking my dad, was there ever any doubt that you needed to get to the U.S.? And the answer was no. There was never a doubt. The U.S. was the beacon on a hill, the shining star, the North Star for those that sought freedom, those that wanted opportunity, those that desired to build a life for themselves, something that we have come to call the American dream. I grew up with that. And I can't tell you how unbelievably frustrating it is for me, the son of, folks that came to this country and made it on their own with only the blessing of the tolerance of America to allow them to stay. No welfare, no public support, no, free health care, none of it, right? My parents didn't get any of that. They just got permission to be here. They did it legally. They followed all of the steps, jumped through all the hoops. And I grew up watching this. And it sickens me when I see these, these student visa holders that come to the U.S. to get, a college degree or a graduate degree and come here and engage in America hate. And the very American institutions like Columbia and Harvard that ought to be indoctrinating these visitors into this country with love for America are egging on this vitriol, this disgust, this anti-Americanism, because of course everybody in the administration there and the faculty embody that hatred for America. And when I say everybody, I mean 99.98% of the Columbia faculty hate America. I guarantee it. I understand how these universities work. And now let's go over to Megyn Kelly, my other most improved Republican conservative right wing or whatever you want to have, however you want to call it. Megyn Kelly is not letting go on the subject of the Great Con. And I think that's what I'm going to start calling it. It is the Great Con. Many, many, many shady Americans over the many years that America has been in business have gone to prison for lengthy terms, for doing far less than what the administration, the previous administration, the Biden people did over the last 4 years. And even if we go back to the 2020 election, it's probably longer. It's probably more like 5 years. They lied about everything having to do with Biden's health. And they did it not for good of country, as they, I think, would posit to themselves and to others when pressed. No, they did it for their own self-enrichment, for their own political power, self-aggrandizement, etc. These people are vile. And Megyn Kelly has just decided to And by the way, Megyn Kelly's a beautiful woman. I'm not calling her a bulldog. I'm just saying she's aggressive like a bulldog. She has taken a chomp out of Jake Tapper, who I think really deserves some of the most deserves the most disgust from us, as he seems to be the leading voice to absolve the Democrats of any blame here by coming in at the 11th hour, hell, not the 11th hour, at the 13th hour, right? Past the clock running time, past the point where Biden has any political relevance, past the point of time where Trump is on the precipice of winning an election. Hell, Trump now is very popular. He's up, 9 points was the latest survey. Very popular. Past any point of the Democrats being any kind of real opposing force or chance at regaining power, and suddenly wants to be absolved of his past sins, carrying water, aka lying through his teeth about Joe Biden. And worse than that, Jake Tapper, in a pursuit of supporting a president that he wanted to see in office and seeing a political force like Trump, who he despised, remaining out of office, decided to go all in and target every single political commentator, political actor, media figure that dared speak the truth about Joe Biden's diminished state. The kind of, I mean, how do I put this, right? The kind of propaganda that surrounded the pursuit of pumping up Joe Biden is akin to the Soviet propaganda that my parents left in 1968, that they fled Czechoslovakia under the communists. Remember, growing up under Joe Stalin, my parents know a thing or two about Bolshevik propaganda. The propaganda under Joe Biden, and I kid you not when I say this, not hyperbolic, almost rivals that of what my parents experienced behind the Iron Curtain in the 1950s and 1960s. And every person that played a role in it ought to burn in hell. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840, KXNT. The What's Right show is brought to you by Sam & Ash Injury Law. In a crash, call Sam & Ash, 702-820-1234, because you deserve what's right.
I'm the best.
Personal injury law has been the same for a long time.
The best.
Big egos, greed, and sleazy schemes. We've had enough. Welcome to Sam & Ash, the new standard for personal injury law, where things are done the right way, because you deserve a team that delivers real support and results. When you have both, your whole world can change. Sam & Ash Injury Law, because you deserve what's right.
Rarely wrong, always right. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT. Greetings, friends. Welcome back to the program. So, my two most improved Republicans, Marco Rubio and Megyn Kelly, outstanding work for both of them here this past week. Marco Rubio, I got to get into this here. This is just absolutely astounding. His exchange with Chris Van Hollen. Now, it started, by the way, Tim Kaine. I get to both of these were fantastic. Tim Kaine, who looks like the Joker. Tim Kaine is an absolute clown. And look, I mean, I'm not here to make fun. I'm just saying that that Tim Kaine is there to be a performative politician. Was looking for a soundbite. And sort of ended up getting owned, in my view, yesterday by Marco Rubio. Here's what transpired in a hearing about immigration, among other things, examination of Marco Rubio, this on Capitol Hill.
You have a different standard based upon the color of somebody's skin. Would that be acceptable?
Well, I'm not the one arguing that. Apparently you are, because you don't like the fact that they're white, and that's why they're coming.
I'm just asking you to say that that would be unacceptable.
Well, no,
that
I would say that the United States,
a very easy thing
the United
to say.
States has a right to pick and choose who they allow into the United States.
Even based on the color of somebody's skin.
No one's, you're the one that's talking about the color of their skin, not me. These
You're
are people whose
refusing to
farms were being
acknowledge
burned
that
down
it
and they were
should be
killed because of the
even-handed.
color of their skin.
Well,
Well, you've demonstrated enough because you think anyone should be allowed into this country for any reason because they met a certain criteria.
Who has said that?
We are going to prioritize people that come into our country on the basis of what's in the interest of this country. That's a small number of people that are coming.
But
in
you
that
said
particular case.
this weekend that
but
there
in
would
other
be more.
cases, it's harder to vet. In other cases, it's more difficult. And by the way, the United States admits people every year. 1 million people come to this country every year legally. 1 million.
And
people
now
a year come to this
there
country
is one
legally.
group
No
of
other
people
country
that
in the
have
world
an
is nearly as
easy
generous.
pass into this country. For the first time, this administration has said Afrikaners get an easy pass and refugee programs for the remainder of the world are shut off. And you can't say to the American public that we should apply this statute in an even-handed way.
No, I think it should be applied in a way.
No,
Well, you shouldn't be shocked. It should be applied in the national interest of the United States. Our immigration policy should be based on the national interest of the United States. Period. End of story. If there is a subset of people that are easier to vet, who we have a better understanding of who they are and what they're going to do when they come here, they're going to receive preference, no doubt about it. There are a lot of sad stories around the world. Millions and millions of people around the world. It's heartbreaking. We cannot assume millions and millions of people around the world. No country can.
Bingo. And what it is, by the way, they're getting at here is, of course, the South African immigrants who came over, a small, relatively small group of them of a couple hundred, and the left melted down because these Afrikaners, of course, are, hold your breath, white. And everybody's getting the vapors because how dare we accept immigrants who look like us, right? Because if you're a Democrat, the image of America is, I mean, in your mind's eye, is driven by multiculturalism and diversity. The only factor that matters is race. Nobody here on the Trump side, on the administration side, was talking about the race of the Afrikaners. It's just a bona fide, verified fact that these people are productive citizens in their home country and are being driven out by a racist and dangerous political force. The government there is not particularly hospitable. And incidentally, I hate to put it even in these terms, but the Afrikaners are a minority in South Africa and are a targeted minority. I mean, the Democrats ought to be losing their minds over this in a good way. Oh my gosh, we're helping a minority group that is being targeted on the basis of their race. But the Trump administration didn't even say that. They're just saying, look, these people are productive citizens. We can vet them. We can pull up their, criminal histories, and we can run a background check. And, we can't really do that for these people that are coming out of Haiti or Somalia or Venezuela, because those governments are in shambles and are unable to provide this background biographical, criminal information. And so the Democrats turn around and go, you can't admit these white people, because they're saying the quiet part out loud. For the Democrats, immigration is about bringing in, well, you can fill in the blank. I've always said that immigration for Democrats is not so much a racial thing, is that they want people that come to this country that are broke, that are down and out, and that will in some way, shape, or form need the government's help, because those are the people that will become good, reliable Democrats once they are legalized and able to vote. Independent people, people who make their own money, who pay taxes, and who resent the long arm and reach of the government, those people tend to vote, we know this, conservatively. So that was the exchange with Tim Kaine, and then Marco Rubio's exchange with Chris Van Hollen. Now, there's a whole exchange before this, but Van Hollen basically, this just was astounding. I may have to save this. I'm gonna get to this after the break, because what Van Hollen does here is he can't let Marco Rubio speak. He is so triggered by Marco Rubio that even though his own time has expired, meaning the senator's time, he cannot stop interrupting Marco Rubio. And he gets, Van Hollen gets angry, and Marco Rubio remains calm. This is, by the way, this is a killer life skill. This is what, if you want to go out there and absolutely, destroy people, remain calm, and as they get more and more upset, because nothing will undo an angry person like you getting calmer and calmer as they get more and more upset. So I get to this here at the bottom of the hour after our break, because it's that good. So my point is, right, Marco Rubio, who would have thought? For me, a very average Republican senator, kind of a squish, disappointing, obviously, in 2016, and also ran somebody who got somewhat destroyed by Trump. You all know the story, and has emerged as an absolute fearless patriot, almost as if he's been liberated by his role in the Senate to just be himself. Absolutely fantastic. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840, KXNT. Greetings and welcome to the What's Right Show, your place for common sense conservatism, Monday through Friday, 1 to 3 p.m., right here on News Talk 840 KXNT. Sam Mirejovsky here behind the What's Right microphone, Nevada's favorite recovering Californian. Friends, I am here in Europe. I'm in the Czech Republic. I'm in Prague. I'm having a good time. Thank you for your concerns. I know some of you have reached out. Where were you yesterday, Sam? We're relying on you to find out what's going on. And I'm doing my best. Travel days are tough. I get in basically late in the afternoon, local time, and then I'm just destroyed. I was on Grant Stinchfield. Who was I on with yesterday? Not Stinchfield. I was on with Steve Gruber on Real America's Voice, who's asking me about the Diddy trial. By the way, we haven't really gotten into this, and I don't know if Steve liked my answer. I know some of you saw me, so I did that live, but then I just did not have energy to do a show at that point. So forgive me. Let me tell you, and I'll get to in a moment here. I'll get to Marco Rubio. Just brief aside on P. Diddy. Now, for starters, I just want you all to know something about me. I could care less about Diddy. I don't, to me, he's a vulgar, gross, sick pervert. Full stop. This life that he has, these freak-off parties, and let's just say everything that has been said about him is true. My fundamental problem with the case against him is, insofar as it relates to the procurement of women for sexual gratification, is this. Do women in 2025, and going back 10 years, if we're going to follow some of these instances, do women in the modern era have some amount of willpower to say no? At what point is coercion of another unlawful? I preoccupy myself with this often. And Candace Owens just interviewed Harvey Weinstein. That was fascinating. I'm not going to play it here because, look, Harvey Weinstein's a pig too, and a lib, and just a disgusting, horrible human being, and probably in some instances a rapist. Now, I say some instances. Let's talk about Harvey Weinstein here. If you use physical force to have, to engage in sexual contact with a woman, that's rape. Black and white, it's rape. It is what it is. For me, it's a little bit less obvious when a woman goes up to his hotel room at 8:00 at night to talk about getting a role in one of his movies, Okay. And then 10 years later goes, well, life was, he took advantage of me. Well, what the F were you doing in his hotel room at 8:00 at night talking about a script? And was it transactional? Because that was one of the clips, moments of the interview that he did, jailhouse interview with Candace Owens. I think Candace Owens is a wingnut too. So I'm just listening. I'm not going to play it here. I'm not going to promote it, but I'm bringing it up because it's in the news. You can't say, as a woman, as a feminist woman in particular, right? Because there's a lot of these liberal women that are all about, women's rights, which I'm all for. I'm all for it. But you have to let me know, you have to be consistent about how you apply these rules, no? You can't on one hand say women and men are completely equal. Okay, I accept that. Okay, you got me. Women, men, equal. And then turn around and say that a woman, by virtue of her disparate power position vis-a-vis the man, felt coerced into doing whatever activity, whether it was sexual or something else, coerced, and that in turn ended up becoming criminally exploitative. Fancy way of saying it was, it was rape or sexual assault. That's my problem with these Diddy parties. One of the pieces of evidence in this was that they had buses full of scantily clad models that were procured in various ways by talent scouts, and they were all given hundreds, if not thousands of dollars to attend Diddy's parties. And they were saying, you got to come here, you got to be scantily dressed, maybe even naked, maybe topless, come to the party. And everybody knew what the party was about. They took the freaking money. The most damaging, and I told this to Steve Gruber on the show last night, is I said, listen, the worst part of the case for the prosecution is when the defense had, the ex-girlfriend who was, by the way, she was legitimately, I saw the video, horrifically assaulted. I mean, he absolutely, should have gone down for criminal assault, beating her up in that elevator lobby in LA. I mean, that, if you've seen the video, that's horrific. He is a spousal abuser. No question about it. But subsequent to that, they had loving texts and exchanges about all this dirty stuff that they were doing and how she enjoyed it and he enjoyed it and how they were exploring things together sexually. And listen, this is a family show, so I'm not going to get into details. But my point is, they were in a relationship. She clearly, in those text messages, was a willing participant. And now the prosecution wants to say, well, she wasn't a willing participant because he was coercing her with threats. Come on. It's the 21st century. This isn't 1705. Okay? Women have rights. They can get up and leave. And it is not the criminal responsibility of a man or of a woman that the partner in their lives or that the co-participant in whatever activities they're engaged in is, quote unquote, weaker. This is a Marxist paradigm. It just bothers me to my core. So anyway, that is my take on the Diddy thing. And am I following this case super closely? No. But I'm curious in it as an attorney, right? Because setting the standard for what is a criminal exploitation of another person and having to see these, there's 5 counts, right? And one of them is a racketeering charge, which, it's like arson, threats, and whatever. I mean, that very well could be substantiated. But the other 4 have to do with basically sexual conduct among adults. I don't even think, it's not like an R. Kelly thing. He doesn't have anybody here who's underage, I think. Because that, of course, right, if it's underage, it doesn't matter. You can't give consent. But we've decided we're drawing a line basically at 18. I think that's most of the jury. But okay, 18, you're an adult, and now you can consent. And you either consent or you don't. And I think we have to be very clear legally that we have a bright line rule for what that is. And if I could add this as a little bit of, of a Sam logic statement, some Sam logic, that we cannot put criminal liability on someone for another person's regret. That, I think, is a bad precedent. And we've set that in a number of cases, okay? Now, do you think, by the way, you think Chris Van Hollen had any regret after he got absolutely massacred here? I was mentioning this before the break. So Van Hollen, this is the senator that went out to see Abrego Garcia and had margaritas with him. And he's done talking, right? He's done, this was an absolute televised murder. This was yesterday during a Senate Foreign Relations Committee hearing. And Van Hollen, at the end of his diatribe against Marco Rubio, with Rubio sitting right there, gets nasty, and he says that he regrets having voted for Marco Rubio, confirming him to his role as Secretary of State. And it just gets better from there.
I have to tell you directly and personally that I regret voting for you for Secretary of State. I yield back.
May I respond?
You may sit.
Well, first of all, your regret for voting for me confirms I'm doing a good job, based on what I know.
Well, that's
about
just
your
a
record and
flippant
what you
statement,
stand
Mr.
for.
Secretary.
Can I respond, Mr. Chairman?
You may.
I didn't ask
Senator,
questions.
please let the Secretary have
I'd be
the floor.
happy to, but then I can respond to his
Your
response.
time's up, Senator, and willfully used, I might add.
Well-
Your remarks do not represent the view of this committee.
Well, Mr.
Secretary, please.
Well, I'd like to. I can't respond to everything he said because much of these are untrue, but I'll go through a few. First of all, I'm actually very proud of the work we've done with USAID. For example, I don't regret cutting $10 million for male circumcisions in Mozambique. I don't know how that makes us stronger and more prosperous as a nation.
I raised
don't regret
Sudan, Mr.
psychosocial support services.
I raised
USAID.
Sudan, Mr. Secretary.
Can I
not
respond, Mr.
Mozambique.
Chairman, or do I?
Senator, I'd ask you to suspend. You had 7 straight minutes of
I chose to
railing on-
use my time that way, Mr. Chairman. That's my right to
Please
use my
suspend.
time that way.
Secretary.
So anyway, so this is him. I'm going to take a quick break here, but this is him. Basically, the chairman of the committee, a Republican, because the Republicans run the Senate, right? They're in the majority, so the chair is always going to be a Republican, and then the ranking member would be the senior most Democrat. So the chairman here is like, hey, you, Senator, Mr. Van Hollen, Senator Van Hollen, you are done with your time. And Van Hollen keeps grandstanding. He keeps getting triggered. This is what low IQ people do, folks. So anyway, this just is absolutely fantastic. Quick break on the other side of this. Let's continue with this exchange. Absolutely spectacular. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT. The What's Right show is brought to you by Sam & Ash Injury Law, 702-820-1234, because you deserve what's right. Hello, yes, back behind the What's Right microphone by popular demand. Sam Mirejovsky, Nevada's favorite recovering Californian. My email, sam@whatsrightshow.com. All right, friends, Chris Van Hollen going off the rails yesterday in a Senate Foreign Relations Committee hearing, losing his mind on Marco Rubio. And by the way, this is how we know that Marco Rubio is one of the most improved Republicans of 2025. I put him and, of course, Megyn Kelly up for that prize. And so this is how it was going. So, just before the break was Chris Van Hollen regretted, and he said this, regrets voting for Marco Rubio for his confirmation that it, and then Marco Rubio's retorted, well, listen, then I think I'm doing a great job. Killer. Anyway, Senator Van Hollen is admonished by the chairman, of the committee, and then says, okay, your time's up. You can't keep grandstanding, and so Marco Rubio cuts back.
Secretary Rubio.
Well, I can go on. I mean, there's other things here. We spent $227,000 for Big Cat's YouTube channel from USAID. We spent $14 million for social cohesion in Mali, whatever the hell that means. So I can go on and on. I got the list here, and there's more. I didn't even bring the whole list. In the case of El Salvador, absolutely. Absolutely. We deported gang members, including the one you had a margarita with. And that guy is a human trafficker, and that guy is a gangbanger, and the evidence is going to be clear. In the days to come, you're going to see who you went to defend.
I'm sorry,
Please,
Mr. Chairman.
Secretary
No.
Rubio has the floor.
Mr. Chairman, he can't make unsubstantiated
Senator,
comments like that.
Secretary Rubio has the floor. You had
Secretary
your time.
Rubio should take that testimony to the federal court of the
Senator,
United States because
well,
he hasn't done it under oath.
Here's another point, okay? There is a division in our government between the federal branch and the judicial branch. No judge in the judicial branch cannot tell me or the president how to conduct foreign policy. No judge can tell me how I have to outreach to a foreign partner or what I need to say to them. And if I do reach to that foreign partner and talk to them, I am under no obligation to share that with the judiciary branch. Just like a judge cannot order me to negotiate with a foreign minister of Russia, they cannot order me to negotiate with a foreign minister or the president of El Salvador. And if I did negotiate with them, which we have responded to them, and we've told them, we've had communications with the president of El Salvador, I am under no obligation, under our division of powers in this country, and to share with the judicial branch how I conducted diplomacy of the United States. It would actually be counterproductive. If I started sharing with courts, or frankly, with the media, my conversations with foreign leaders and all of their details, no foreign leader would talk to me again, and we would break trust with them. So I have complied with every court order. What I won't comply with is an order to disclose what I'm saying and what we're talking about with a foreign leader, because then they won't talk to me. Diplomacy doesn't work that way. About the student visas, let me say this. I don't deport anybody, and I don't snatch anybody. The State Department does not have officers in the street snatching everybody. What I do is revoke visas, and it's very simple. A visa is not a right. It is a privilege.
And this is the exact point where Marco Rubio is saying something that is literally stirring my soul. It's like getting this goes to the very core of my being. And I take this all the way back to when I was a student myself, when I started my college career at UCI, University of California, Irvine, not the University of Chinese Immigrants, as some refer to it as. But I was there, and there were, at the time, right, this was 1998, 1999 was my freshman year. And we had a very active Muslim student union, and they were violently protesting against anybody that came on campus. And a lot of these students were visitors. They were here on student visas. They were paying a buttload of money into the UC schools, so the schools loved having them, but they were guests of the United States of America. And this was just, a couple of years before September 11th. And, we were getting very lax with these student visas, as we certainly found out. I didn't go to a pilot school, but, it felt like it at times. So anyway, I fantasized. I thought, you're literally a guest of this country. I'm dreaming of a scenario where we would have the balls to kick you out for hating on the very country that is providing you an education. And this is what Marco Rubio is saying. He's literally saying, he is getting into, as Secretary of State, because this is authority given to him in the U.S. Code, as Secretary of State, he's getting into the granular of looking at these protests and seeing, hey, are any of these people here on student visas? And if they are, out you go.
Privilege. People apply for student visas to come into the United States and study. And if you tell me that you're coming to the United States to lead campus crusades, to take over libraries and try to burn down buildings and acts of violence, we're not going to give you a visa.
Is that what Ms. Ozturk did?
We're not going to give you a visa.
Is that what she did? Come on, Mr. Secretary.
And every single one of these cases, the factors are different.
Senator,
the bottom line is, if you're coming here to stir up trouble on our campuses, we will deny you a visa. And if you have a visa and we find you, we'll revoke it. And we're going to do more. There are more coming. We're going to continue to revoke the visas of people who are here as guests and are disrupting our higher education facilities. People are paying money. These kids pay money to go to school, and they have to walk through a
Writing an
bunch of
op-ed
lunatics
to the
who are
tough
here on student
newspapers
visas.
disrupting the
Simple
foreign
as
policy
that.
of the United
I want to
States.
do more. I hope we can
That's
find more of these people.
pathetic, Mr.
In fact, the other day, some guys led a riot. I forgot what university it was, and I asked, please, can you find the arrest records of all the people that were arrested at that riot at that campus? Because if any of them have a visa, we're going to revoke it.
I feel so much safer
All right,
when you lock
let's,
up people like Ms. Osterg, Ms. Secretary.
We've had enough time on the subject. Thank you very much. And we're going to move to Senator Lee.
And that is how the fireworks ended. Absolutely spectacular. Now, I'm going to get to Megyn Kelly next. I just need to do all this in proper order. Everything Marco Rubio said is correct. By the way, if you look at the U.S. Code on the review of basically of these student visas, that the Secretary of State has the right to remove anyone that he determines to be a threat, or even just somebody he doesn't want in the country. Gotta look up the exact verbiage. It's very loose, right? I mean, I'm an attorney, and I always look at the exact, at the exact language. It's very broad. And it makes sense, right? Because what country wants to keep and hold on to people who, as guests, who are misbehaving? And the Democrats go, what about the First Amendment? Suddenly the Democrats care about the First Amendment, right? I mean, that's part of the joke here, because as a general rule, the First Amendment is irrelevant to the Democrats as long as it is Republicans that are silenced. But the minute that we dare tread on the precious right to speak by guests of this country, which, by the way, we can, all hell breaks loose. Again, the Democratic Party, they only care about the First Amendment when it comes to allowing Hamas supporters to visit this country and to create and wreak havoc upon our in our universities, for example, right? Okay. I got to take a quick break here at the top of the hour. We're rolling through it, folks. Great to be here. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840, KXNT. Greetings, friends, and welcome to the What's Right Show, your place for common sense conservatism, Monday through Friday, 1 to 3 p.m., right here on News Talk 840 KXNT. Now, I have to tell you, I call it the Great Con. The Great Con. The last 5 years of subterfuge and lies from the Democratic Party, and this whole Joe Biden thing. There obviously, just if you're tuning in now and have not been aware of what's been happening in the last week, let me catch you up, because a series of events are very important. We first had, just at the beginning of the weekend, the end of last week, Axios, an online publication typically left-leaning, broke a story where they had received exclusively the audio of the Robert Hur interview with Joe Biden. Now, the Hur was the special prosecutor that was charged with investigating the documents that were found in Joe Biden's garage that had, I guess, previously been at his office over at Penn State. So this was all, listen, that guy was there to whitewash it. Certainly, I understand that, all that good stuff. But remember what happened at the time. Hur does his investigation. Everybody's, I don't think people are really holding their breath for it, but regardless, comes out with the report. And in the report, he says that Biden mishandled classified information, documents, but that he was basically a bumbling old man who didn't know, where he even was, and so shouldn't be prosecuted. And of course, when that happened, everybody, covered for him, and we'll get to that in a minute. So as this Axios piece comes out, and I'll tell you, even folks like me who covered Biden's lack of mental acuity, let's put it nicely, for the last 5 years, even people like me who were skeptical during the 2020 election that Biden didn't have it, right? That he was not the same guy that had been vice president, that he was clearly suffering from diminished capacity. Even people like me were astounded by how bad the tape was, because when you listen to the whole thing, it's not just bad, it's terrible. So then 2 days after, during the weekend, Biden drops the news that he has advanced cancer, prostate cancer, that has metastasized into the bone. And of course, I don't have to tell you that that's a death sentence, right? I mean, he's just, maybe got, weeks or months to live. And there was immediately this push to be nice, right? Now, I don't want to belabor this, but it's all important to set up. Number one, it is obvious, right, from the diagnosis, given that Biden's not your average Joe, that he's Joe Biden, that he has a team of doctors. It's not just his one doctor that's, of course, getting a lot of attention right now, but he's got a whole medical staff. He's president of the U.S. I mean, come on. If there ever was a person who had been tested for everything, it's him. So the news, he didn't find out that he has late-stage prostate cancer now. He knew this for at least several years. The news came out to contain the damage surrounding the release of the Robert Hur tape. And the reason that Biden, again, was being, I would say, used, again, his condition made public, was not even to protect Joe Biden, but to protect everybody who participated in this con. One of the things that a number of conservatives, and listen, I don't fault them for this, okay? I understand that how do I put this nicely? I despise Joe Biden for what he did to so many Americans during his term. I despise the administration for what they did to January 6th hostages. I'm going to call them that. Most of them just people that never should have gone to jail, let alone prison. I despise the administration for what they did to pro-life protesters. There are people that the Biden administration put into prison, federal prison, for praying at an abortion clinic non-violently, that had themselves advanced cancer and for whom imprisonment was a death sentence. I despise the Biden administration for allowing up to 22 million illegal immigrants, of whom many, 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 many were criminals, violent thugs who killed and raped indiscriminately in towns, cities, communities across America. But I also am not going to be the guy that immediately goes on Twitter and begins hate tweeting about a fellow American, no matter how despicable, when they announce that they have cancer. And the number one reason, folks, why I don't do this and why I have been far more circumspect than many conservatives out there is because I remember, and I'll never forget, the many, many despicable, gross leftists who wrote and said horrible things about Rush Limbaugh when he announced his terminal condition. So those are my thoughts. I didn't really get into this on Monday, but I just want you to I'm giving you some setup here. Now, I am to the point now, and I think this is the better take. And I've had listen, this is what happens when you take a day off from the radio and you don't actively tweet about this. By the way, on X, on Twitter, you can find me at What's Right Sam. So you can see on there the statement that I made about this. It was very nice. because I am nice, okay? I'm not an a-hole. But I am to the point now where I think, honestly, that I don't even know if Biden knew what he was doing. Like, there are two categories of things. Like, when you look at the man, Joe Biden, and you think, what has he done that was awful? And I'll give you an example. Did he know what was happening? Do you think he actually had the mental wherewithal to understand what was happening to the January 6th people? You think he was following that? You think he was sharp as a tack in those meetings? I don't. Now, did Joe Biden, I'll give you a counterpoint to this, did Joe Biden know when he was vice president that he was using his drug-addled loser son as his bag man, implicating him in a scheme to shake down various, state actors and international businessmen of ill repute? Sure did. I mean, he didn't have his dementia when he was VP under Obama in the Obama administration. So I'm giving you, that's an A and a B, right? I hold him accountable. I think Joe Biden, when people say Joe Biden is a decent guy, you see this all over right now, leftists. Oh, he's a decent guy. He's a great guy. This is a guy who, in the wake of when his wife was killed, and actually he took the surviving, and one of the kids, right? Took his surviving kids and held a press conference to get pity. I can tell you that if in our family we had a tragedy like that, the absolute last thing I would do with my grieving children is to put them in the public eye. And the whole Jill thing, right? It's weird. Okay. And then, of course, right, the whole story, what he did with Burisma, he knew full well what was going on. And that goes back 10 years if you, will follow the pardon. So to me, there are things that unequivocally Joe Biden had knowledge of he was doing that were bad. And then there were things where, he was, like, we conservatives can't have it both ways. We can't claim that he didn't have the mental wherewithal to be president and then claim that he personally is responsible for everything that happened. To me, that's a non sequitur, that's a logical fallacy. Okay? So I just want to, I want to explore some of this because I'm looking, not a Biden lover here. Please, folks, don't get, I can see the emails already popping up here. By the way, sam@whatsrightshow.com. I'm going to read these during the break. But I'm not here excusing it. I'm just saying I want to create a logical arc. It takes me, and it ought to take you, to one very, very clear thing. And that is that there are people right now walking among us in our country who were inside that administration, who orchestrated this con, who took advantage of a senior citizen who didn't know where he was half the time, and used him for their own self-benefit and used him to harm the country and their fellow citizens. I always, it's just how my lawyer brain works, I always want to get to the point of it, right? Where am I focusing my ire? Who deserves to burn in hell, right? That's what I want to know. And I'm telling you straight, it's not Joe Biden. And this is why people are out there saying now, people that I respect are saying, I'm not ready maybe to go this far, but saying basically that Trump should pardon Joe Biden and then go to town on everybody else. And I would throw, folks, I'm telling you right now, I would throw Dr. Jill Biden right in there. By the way, she didn't get a pardon. And that bitch needs to go down because what she did to her husband is absolutely despicable. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT. Don't go anywhere. More of the What's Right show up next after these messages.
The Sam and Ash team, they wanted me to have the best care. They had my interests at heart. I have an enormous amount of gratitude. I cannot say enough thank you.
All right, folks, welcome back. Sam Mirejovsky here behind the What's Right microphone, Sam at what'srightshow.com. So judging from the emails that I am getting here, and I just reviewed them here during the break, okay. So, look, what I am saying about Joe Biden is this. It is illogical to, on one hand, claim that he didn't have the mental acuity to know what pardons he was signing, okay? Because that's one of the allegations. One of the allegations here is that, I mean, it's been said, there's been, I think it was, who made this? Well, it was, I'll get to that. I may even have, Burchett, I think, was Tim Burchett. I think, I'll play the clip here at the bottom of the hour. But there's even been an allegation that there were people inside the administration who took bribes. They took money for the pardons. So you can't claim it's logically incongruous to say, on one hand, that we should invalidate everything that Biden did during his presidency because he was non compos mentis, and then turn around and say that he is criminally liable and that we should hate him for everything that he did when he was president. Right? I'm just saying, he's either a vegetable that was abused by people or he's not a vegetable. And so we conservatives have to keep our story straight here. Okay, that's all I'm saying. And by the way, that's the criminal standard. If you don't know what you're doing, you can't be held for the crimes that require require intent. Okay, mens rea. Okay, consciousness of guilt. Those crimes go away if you don't have the capacity for that. So I'm just basically legal stuff. Okay. Now, Megyn Kelly. Okay, I realize this is Jake Tapper. This is not a man that was in the administration, but Jake Tapper is not some journalist. He is and has been a very powerful voice at CNN, somebody who's conducted numerous televised presidential debates, and someone who has been unabashedly pro-Biden, anti-Trump. All of that is fair. Now, unlike Biden, I don't think that anybody is claiming that Jake Tapper has a lack of mental acuity. I mean, he may be dumber than a bag of hammers, but he's not, he doesn't have dementia. He doesn't have Alzheimer's. And Megyn Kelly absolutely destroyed him the other day on her podcast. I want to play this for you. Because again, when I think about the most improved conservatives, Republicans, whatnot, yesterday, Megyn Kelly absolutely destroyed what little was left of Jake Tapper's credibility and career.
I did ask Joe Biden to be transparent about his health records in an interview in 2020. I did ask him about the fact that voters thought that he was not transparent at all. No.
He promised you that he would be transparent about his health records, and then he wasn't. And when you sat with him again,
at all.
including 1 month after the Jackie Walorski thing, you didn't ask him about it. You didn't follow up on the fact that he was falling up the stairs, that he was losing his train of thought regularly, that he was slurring, that he was incomprehensible, that he was getting lost on the White House lawn. You sat right across from him and you asked none of that, notwithstanding the fact that he had promised you he would be fully transparent about his health issues.
That's true, but I did ask him about his age and the fact that the American people had concluded that even though he said whenever anybody brought up the subject of his age, watch me. And I said, yes, they're watching you and they are concerned that you were too old for this job.
You know as well as I do that there's a way of, you can say, hey, there's this poll on your age, or you could say, you just forgot that Jackie Walorski was dead. You asked where she was moments after watching a videotape tribute to her. You lowered the flags at the White House after she died. This happened 13 days before you sat with him. There is a way of pressing a man like that on the actual infirmities to bring it home to him and to the audience, and you didn't do it.
That's correct. I didn't. And like I said, I feel humility about my coverage. I mean, it's not like I was asking him his favorite movie or his favorite color. We were talking about Putin. We were talking about other issues of national importance. But yeah, I mean, of course, I've said I look back at my coverage with humility. And I wish I did cover the issues of age and acuity, but I wish I had covered them much more.
By the way, Tapper and his stupid book, you can't do this. You can't do this. You can't be part of the cover-up and then write a book about the cover-up and do, oh, mea culpa. I said this at the onset when we first heard about the book. What did I say here? I said, this is like when O.J. Simpson wrote the book, If I Did It. Anyway, the bloodbath continued. Megyn Kelly again scoring great points with me, yours truly.
The comments of Joe Biden making gaffes, saying things stupid, tripping, are all important and all deserved to be aired and all deserve scrutiny. But as you know, Megyn, because even though you look 30 years younger than me, we're roughly the same age, Joe Biden has been saying stupid things for decades. Okay?
I get what you're saying, but this minimizes it too, because it was more than saying stupid things. But I'm telling you, like over here in my ecosphere, we were covering all of these. It wasn't just falling down. It was getting lost. It was some of the stuff you report in your book, we knew and we were reporting on, like the multi-jump cuts in the videos of him, where it was obvious he couldn't get through a 1 minute take. So
remember, by the way, I played this just the other day. The jump cuts. It's wild. He literally could Donald Trump, you think you're so tough. Let's go debate me. See me on the debate stage, you little, I hear you're free on Wednesdays. It was like cut out of, 20 different cuts. Probably took them an hour to do it.
So they had to use those. It was clear to us that he was using teleprompter, and there was some reporting on that at the time, all of which the White House was denying. Now, with the current White House, I have some connections. With the Joe Biden White House, I had none. But you did. You did. And so while... You've been in Washington 30 years, Jake. You guys, you and CNN have White House connections, but there was no effort, none, to get to the bottom of this. And now for you guys to write this book like there was a cover-up, it's like there was a cover-up and there was an attempted cover-up. It could only ever work if you allowed it.
I love Megyn Kelly for saying this to his face. What a stinking weasel Jake Tapper is. By the way, even the libs aren't buying this. I'll play that next. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840, KXNT. Greetings, friends, and welcome to the What's Right show. Sam Mirejovsky here, Nevada's favorite recovering Californian. By the way, Trump's done a U-turn on the SALT cap. A number of Republicans, obviously, I'm just quick on the, on the budget bill. The SALT cap, this is the state and local tax. Basically, it's like it functions like a rebate. And it benefits folks that live in high tax states. Now, we here in Nevada, those of you listening that live in Nevada, we do not have a state income tax. Our state lives within its means and does not tax its citizens directly. But our neighbors to the left, looking at you, California, they do it that way. They tax the hell out of their citizens. And for people, even many Republicans there, it really hurts to not be able to deduct their state and local taxes from their federal taxes. But, my sense of this, and I know I'm gonna upset my mother who lives in California and does her taxes and is always screaming about this. I'm sorry. Why should the federal government subsidize the poor political choices of California, of New York, of other states that continue to elect raving communists and keep raising taxes on their citizens? Why should I, as a taxpayer in Nevada, subsidize the poor choices of California. I mean, I decided to leave California. I left my home state that I loved in many, many ways. But I abandoned it because of the political climate there. And because I wanted to save the money on taxes. I'm not going to lie. So, moved to Nevada, moved to Las Vegas, fell in love, and the rest is history. But look, I'm just saying. So, Trump wanted to have the SALT cap, some sort of SALT rebate there, deduction, and now has turned around. So that's a development from the Hill. We'll talk more about the bill. I think I'll get into it a little bit more tomorrow. But regardless, the efforts now, the full-blown crisis of what happened when Biden was in office and who actually was running the country is metastasizing, okay? And, just like Biden's cancer, it's spreading. And by the way, some Democrats, Jon Stewart absolutely shredded Monday night Jake Tapper on his daily show. Listen, listen to this. Wow.
Word! We're back with breaking news in our politics lead and a brand new excerpt from my upcoming book with Axios' Alex Thompson. It's called Original Sin. I'm not sure if you've heard of it. It's on Biden's decline. It's called Original Sin. I'm sure you've heard on May 20th. That's Tuesday. Original Sin. That's coming out in 3 weeks. On May 20th. That's just 19 days away. In 1 week and 1 day. Coming out in just a few days. Comes out Tuesday. You will not believe what we found out.
He's looking very bewildered.
Don't news people have to tell you what they know when they find it out? Isn't that the difference between news and a secret?
Well, it was one big giant secret. They wanted to keep the secret. And why? They wanted to keep the secret because they were protecting Joe Biden, because they hated Trump. This is obvious. And that's the people on the outside. Now, the concern, of course, is the people inside who are running the scam. The View, by the way, tried to brush this off. Whoopi Goldberg and Joy Behar doing what they do and running cover. Again, I like to play this simply for the comedic relief. Bringing home the fact that these are programs that, unfortunately, some people get their news from, and that's why they vote for morons.
So, should anonymous sources who talked to Tapper have spoken up about their concerns while he was in office, while he was still in office? And my other question is, why is this important to know now?
Yeah. Well, that's what some people want to know.
It just seems to me.
Yeah.
We got a lot of stuff to be concerned about at the moment.
Yeah.
Wait, it does matter now, because what if this is all true, which we strongly believe it is, and I'm telling you it is, but I'm just going to be very charitable here. What if it is true? We're just going to suppose. Then clearly an elderly person was abused so that others could take advantage of the presidency. We had an unelected chief executive. That's a constitutional crisis, Whoopi. But Whoopi doesn't care. She's going to gloss right over it.
So I list them? So I list them?
Yes,
okay.
please.
Here's the Trump's atrocities. I'm going to list them for you.
Oh,
Cutting
Trump.
Medicaid.
Yeah.
Well, this is what we're concerned about now.
Oh, I got you. Okay.
Cutting
I'll
Medicaid, slashing funding for cancer research.
Yep.
Rising prices because of tariffs. Dismantling USAID, which helps children and people who are poor around the world.
Yeah.
Fears of recession, destroying due process, ending birthright citizenship, dismantling the Department of Education, rolling back regulations on air and water quality, destroying our relationships with allies like Canada and the UK, and targeting his political opponents.
Preach.
And not only that, but he also said that Joe Biden has stage 9 cancer. Oh, really? Where did he come up with that? When is Jake Tapper going to write a book about the cognitive decline of the person who is in charge right now?
I can just make barnyard noises at this point, listening to Joy Behar. Old MacDonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O. And on that farm, he had a whoopee, right? I mean, just, God, these people are like literally, they're dumber than what you'd find on a farm. There's pigs that are smarter than these women. Okay. So yeah, I mean, we just want to talk about Trump. Well, why are we talking about this now? They are part of the problem. The reason they don't want to talk about it is all of them were perfectly happy with the arrangement. They all knew Biden was cuckoo. They all knew he wasn't there. But the people behind the scenes that were running the country were political allies of all of these so-called journalists. Wild stuff. Number two, these so-called journalists are suffering from their own credibility loss from years of downplaying stories that now are turning out to be accurate because one of their own, Jake Tapper, has rushed in to quickly absolve himself of the stink that is all over him and everybody else and has thrown them all under the bus. So leave it to the others to go, whoa, I'm just, how dare Jake Tapper? Why didn't, these people, it's surprising these people are talking just now as if these revelations are somehow news. They're not news, right? Jon Stewart has it right. Don't news people have to tell you what they know when they find it out? I sent out a tweet the other day. Some of my tweets, folks, are really underappreciated. This is why I need you to go on there and maybe they're just bad tweets. I don't know, but I just yeah. This was my tweet. My tweet was, what didn't Biden know and when didn't he know it? See, I think that's funny, but I guess not everybody did. Okay. What is absolutely not funny is what if the people that were running the auto pen were using it really truly for their own self-benefit? And by the way, before you tell me, Sam, this is a wild thing, I don't know. Hunter Biden seems to be the kind of character that has a history of using his father's office for personal gain. Yes? Fair? So, Tim Burchett here, U.S. representative, congressman, says he suspects auto pen clemency from Biden, has happened in his own state before. He's talking to Benny Johnson on the Benny Show. This was yesterday. Interesting take on this.
Tennessee has had a history of this. We had a governor several governors ago. He's since passed away, but he sold pardons. You can look it up. His name was Ray Blanton. It made national news. And I mean, they wrote songs, Pardon Me, Ray. And it was a cash for clemency deal. And that's exactly what I think you're going to find out. You're going to find staffers that were able to take forms, get them and run them through some sort of bogus legal system. And then they auto penned them. And there's probably people out on the street that shouldn't be, but somebody got rich off that. And, wow. And I think those people, I hate to say it, but you'll see something probably horrible happen to some of those people because it goes up the chain. This is a very dangerous town to play games in.
So you're saying that the Biden staffers took payouts and just ran the auto pen for certain pardons.
I have no direct proof of that, but I'm just talking about history. And if you got somebody making $100,000 a year and somebody offers you $250,000 in some safety deposit box. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Look at all those. Look at Clinton's clemency, Bill Clinton, the people he gave clemency to. Some of those people were just awful, awful people, and nobody raised a beat about them.
Yeah, I personally know people who paid millions to try and get Trump to pardon them. Very rich guys who are in prison for good reasons, and they go through these Republican lobbyists to try and get it done. It's a huge industry.
Yeah, I mean, this story is only gonna get worse. And my point in all of it is, every Democrat out there that goes, well, why are we talking about it? But Trump, but USAID, but habeas corpus, but right? It's almost like they're protesting a little too much. It's like a little too much. They're going a little too hardcore on pleading their innocence or trying to brush this all away under the rug. And that I think we cannot allow. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840, KXNT, the What's Right show's brought to you by Sam and Ash Injury Law. In a crash, call Sam and Ash 702-820-1234 because you deserve what's right. Hi, welcome back. Sam Mirejovsky here behind the What's Right microphone. Happy to have you with us. By the way, I have to tell you, Trump went to Capitol Hill because he's got to put his boot up these Republicans' rear ends. I understand that Massey has his principles, and I sympathize with Massey. But the enemy of good is perfect, right? You got to get something done. You got to get the bill. You've got to get Trump's agenda across the finish line, because if we don't, we're going to lose the House. When we lose the House, we're going to lose the next 2 years of Trump's presidency. It's all going to go to hell because I don't want the debt to go up. We're codify Doge then, right? But at the same time, I'm telling you, just these Republicans are driving me nuts. And folks that have looked at this bill that I trust, and I have not gone through all this bill. Admittedly, I do not have that time. But people that I trust have looked at this and go, look, it's got a lot of good things in it, some bad, but it's certainly a lot better than anything we've had in the past. So get it done, fix it. Anyway, as part of this, Trump goes to the Hill. This is something Biden never would do, right? To go and show up at the Capitol and start whipping Democrats into shape. So Trump goes to the Hill, starts whipping Republicans, and holds an impromptu press conference. This was a wild moment. But one of the things that Trump ends up doing at this presser is he gets asked about the crazy Congresswoman, LaMonica McIver from New Jersey, who got arrested after assaulting an ICE agent at that facility that she took over, barged into. And this is, this was fascinating. So anyway, he gets asked about it. Listen.
Oh, give me a break. Did you see her? She was out of control. Did you? Those days are over. The days of woke. No, I didn't. The days of woke are over. That woman, I have no idea who she is. That woman was out of control. She was shoving federal agents. She was out of control. The days of that crap are over in this country. We're going to have law and order.
There's a new sheriff in town. By the way, this is the video of her assaulting those agents. Hey, look for yourself. I mean, this is not good. Not good. It's on tape. It's assault and battery. Plus, you've got a federal agent here, so there's interference with official duties and assault on a police officer and all that jazz. Not good, not good, not good, right? But she is a leftist. She is a proud woman of color, and she is defending the country against fascism. So this is her speech here. This is her protesting Doge at the Treasury Department back in February. You can hear the kind of person we're dealing with here.
We will not take this. We will fight back. Fight back. Fight back. And as I close out, because I know we've been out here for a long time, and shut down the Senate. We are at war. Anytime a person can pay $250 million into a campaign and they be given full access to the Department of Treasury of the United States of America, we are at war.
Well, they're at war, all right. She went in there and started assaulting federal officers. Not a good look. And I'm glad that she's being prosecuted. By the way, this prosecution will not take place in D.C. It will take place in New Jersey, where this incident occurred. and, she could actually get convicted. So interesting stuff. Now, there was a development, speaking of immigration and ICE. A U.S. citizen originally from Brazil was mistakenly arrested by ICE and then taken in. They thought that he was here illegally, and he, basically had to prove his identity. Now, guess what? This happened yesterday out in Boston. Here's a twist. This guy's a Trump supporter. Now, what do you think it did for his affections for Trump and for making America great again?
Despite being detained, the 31-year-old says he still supports the work being done by ICE agents.
I showed them my ID, my passport, and my picture, and they confirmed that it was not me. They're doing their job. I still support what they're doing. Unfortunately, they called the wrong person, but I still support whatever they're doing. And I voted for Trump, and there are a lot of bad people in this country, to be honest with you, because they don't deserve to be here.
Now, people are they're melting down, right? The left is melting down over this. How can you support Trump? Trump is the Gestapo. I am absolutely convinced, beyond any shadow of a doubt, that if something like this happened to my parents, gosh forbid, they were detained and suspected of being in the country illegally because they have accents, and they were to prove that they are here illegally, everything, on the up and up. They wouldn't change their opinion of Trump one iota. And do you know why? I've said this many times. I have repeated this, and I'll continue telling you folks. I understand where, the whole, but Trump is anti-immigrant. No, immigrants love Trump. Legal immigrants do. Why? Because every person that had to do it the right way, that had to go through the paperwork, take the steps, wait, pay the money, pay the fees, everyone that is here legally is incensed by illegal immigration. Furious, like the Elmo on fire gif, okay? They are pissed to high heavens about this. Every time Democrats conflate illegal immigration with legal immigration, it infuriates every legal immigrant who did it the right way. And Democrats have become really just a party of supporting a party that is supported by, illegal immigrants who are doing bad stuff in the country and a bunch of, white, older, somewhat wealthier libs, right? I mean, I just think about it. It's very easy to support, open borders when you live behind two gates and have security and life is good. You're not in the neighborhoods where you're in the line of fire. Now, of course, criminal aliens can strike wherever and whenever. And this is why you have, a number of liberals out there. So I don't care if I get killed by an illegal or not. Their immigration status does nothing to matter to me at all. By definition, of course, that's idiotic because I don't want to get killed. I don't know about them, but I choose life. I'm pro-life, my life. I want to stay alive. And if there is just one less murderer in the country, one less rapist, one less dangerous person lurking about in my city, then that is a slightly reduced chance of something like that happening to me. It's a law of numbers. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840, Sam at whatsrightshow.com. I'll see you tomorrow, folks. Keep the faith.